What is up, guys? AMG here. Welcome back to another video. I hope you're doing amazing. As I promised, I would make a guide on Dragon Riders. So I made a little slideshow, a little presentation, and how this is gonna work is after I explain each point that I'm making, I'm gonna hop into the game, show you guys a replay, and kind of show you guys what I mean, right? I can't just do a presentation without you guys actually seeing what I mean. So that's the plan, and the link to this presentation will be in the description. Also, the link to the army will be in the description as well. Here's the army so that you guys know what I'm talking about in advance. But yeah, let's hop straight into this here. So, the first point, the main carry of this army, guys, right? I mean, it just has to be the Dragon Duke. He replaced the RC and just does such a better job, in my opinion. So there are three different ways you can use him. Typically, you're going to be using him as a safe funnel, that third option. However, you will also use him to take out heroes near the town hall or just wipe out a rage tower. But before I show you guys some of the bases that I'm talking about, I'll just tell you guys where not to use him. Okay, so the number one thing you need to worry about when dropping the Duke is the air sweeper. Okay, the air sweeper is just basically makes him pretty useless if he's getting pushed back all the time. So if you want to drop him near the air sweeper, don't do that ever. I'm telling you, ever. Don't ever do that. The monolith, listen, you typically don't want to drop him near the monolith, but you at least have like a free spell. You have the stun, you have a totem. So if you really need to drop him near the monolith, you can, but usually it's probably not a good idea. Same thing with the clan castle. A bunch of headhunters come out. It's a little bit risky to do it, but you definitely can, but I would avoid it. And then thinking ahead, if it's a rough revive, right? So if I'm dropping him in an area where once I revive him and he's gonna get hit by a million air defenses and like the monolith or the revenge tower, I'm probably not gonna drop him in that area to begin with. Okay, so now going back here, and I'm going to show you guys one rage tower example. So let's get it. All right, boys. So first replay, right? Rage tower. So just looking at this base, there are a few ways you could deploy him, right? You can approach a base in many different angles, but here the safest area where I know I'm getting value and I know I can revive him easily is near this rage tower here, right? So I'm able to take out these wizard towers, take this out, the Inferno, and the clan castle. I said to avoid it, but if it's just one of the things that I mentioned before, and no air sweeper, then it's okay to deploy him there, because at least it's only one annoying thing he has to deal with. So I'm dropping him here. And I'm not committing any spells here. I don't really need to. I use the stun, though, just so that that headhunter doesn't do anything to me, right? And then very important, always poison that furnace there. It's just very important. You don't want that thing messing you up later on. And now we took out 10% of the base, and we don't have to worry about that minion prince in this very annoying section later on. So, yeah. Now let's hop into the next example, which is the hero wipe. Okay, so next example, right? Heroes. Where do you want to drop, in which base do you want to drop him to take out these heroes instead of going for like a rage tower? So, as I said, heroes are so annoying for the Dragon Riders because they can't target them. So here we see the long shot, we see the minion prince, the defending duke, an Inferno. There's a lot of value. The only thing that's scary is the monolith and the clan castle here. But I'm going to go for it anyway and know that I'm going to have a skelly spell and some freezes, some totems to deal with it later on if I need to. But yeah, you could also go for the rage tower here, but if you see all the heroes clumped up together like this, it's usually a very safe option to just go for them right at the start. Because if you leave a base like with all the heroes, like this for the riders, you either have to start here, which could be a horrible funnel for your army, and because they could like split up, or you have to leave it for last, which is so risky. You can 1-star so much if you do that, right? If you leave the town hall for last, right? So yeah, unfortunately, the monolith is going to take him out later, but at least I have a Skelly spell, some totems to use later on, right? So it's not the worst revive in the world. But yeah, let's hop into the funnel part. Alright guys, so a next example. So when do you want to drop him? When you're not going for the heroes or for like a rage tower. So here we could drop him there, but monolith, rage tower, all the heroes, just too risky. My Duke is gonna die too quick. So instead, we're gonna drop him so that he goes around the base. And this is a very popular base, so I hope it helps a lot. Yeah, basically, he's gonna create a perfect funnel here. He's gonna go around the entire outside. And then we'll have an easy revive because there really isn't all that air targeting stuff up here, right? So yeah, guys, a very simple example. Let's hop into another one. Okay, so next example, where don't I drop him near the rage towers or the heroes? So probably on one of these bases. Very popular right now in the game. You could definitely go for one of the rage towers, but the issue with this is you got annoying air sweepers, the monolith there, and just way too much going on. So if I were to revive him, he's probably going down quick, right? So instead, we're gonna let him funnel this part of the base, take out a few very important defenses, and that will allow my troops to start from this angle here, which will be perfect, right? So I'm gonna just 2x speed this because we have one more example to go through. And yeah, rocket balloons also to help funnel. I'll go into that a little bit later. But yeah, pretty solid funnel here. We don't need to worry about the minion prints, and our troops have a very easy access to this part of the base without having to worry about any of that, right? So one more example, guys. Let's get it. Guys, so last example of the funneling option for the Duke, right? So there's obviously a lot of different ways you can drop him here, but as I said earlier, leaving the town hall for last is very risky sometimes, especially with the Invis Tower and these super high DPS buildings, right? So I decide to actually start there with my Duke. Yes, risky, but probably worth it. So I use a totem and one rider. Probably also could have used my rocket loons, but this option seemed a little bit safer. And then once that thing is triggered, we'll go ahead and drop a freeze. And once that freeze wears off, probably use the ability. Yep. And that's good value. Obviously, the sweepers are very annoying, but as I will mention later on, that's why you have the giant arrow. So yeah, take out this very annoying part of the base right at the start. Create a really nice funnel here. And that just allows my army to just circle around the entire outside, right? So perfect stuff. Alright, boys, so next, Archer Queen and Giant Arrow, right? That's what I was about to get at here. So, what is the goal of the Queen? So, she does a lot in your army. The most important, right, is her ability. Usually, guys, I have this flipped. Usually, you want to go for the air sweepers and not the air defenses, okay? I just think that the air sweepers being able to push back your entire army, especially your Duke, who's super slow, you just need to take them out over the air defenses like 80% of the time, I would say. Also, your Queen occasionally can help you make a really nice funnel, and she can get a lot of good value on certain bases, okay? So I'm going to show you guys one of those bases right now. Let's get it. Okay, so It's actually the replay we just saw. But this is, I really wanted to make sure that you guys understand the value you can get with your queen on a base like this. It's so spread out. The walls are very like packed together on the inside, right? And your queen can just walk around the outside with her giant and just do so much, right? So here I actually go for the air defenses because these air sweepers are not really going to be that annoying, I think. Actually, this one could have been a little bit annoying, but I saw it pointing up, so I thought it wouldn't. But yeah, queen is just going to be able to walk around the entire outside here and just help create that funnel for my riders here, right? So a perfect kind of base where you want to protect your queen and make sure her and the giant can funnel and get as much value as possible, okay? Guys, so next example of how to use your queen giant arrow, right? So we have a few options. We could try and snipe out the air defenses here, which is fine, but the more annoying thing that's in my way for the whole army is this air sweeper. So we are just going to aim for it, make sure our riders can easily take out this section of the base. And that makes things so much easier. Another thing with the queen is sometimes those air defenses are like on the outside anyway, so she's just gonna walk over there and take it out, right? So you don't necessarily have to aim for them if they're very close to the queen to begin with, okay? Alright, now we're on to the main army. So where do you want to deploy these dragon riders? What's the most optimal way to use them, right? So let me just begin with there are two main base styles, right? There's a spread out base style where everything is kind of along the outside. And then there's some where there's a very stacked core. So like a rage tower in the middle, a bunch of infernos near it, maybe some heroes, stuff like that, right? So before I get into that, your main goal is to reduce the riders from splitting up as much as possible. So that's why you're funneling with your Duke. That's why you're using your Queen sometimes to funnel as well, right? But now, let's go ahead and let me show you guys these two base styles so that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here. Alright, so this is one of these stacked core type of bases, I would say. So why do I say that? You see it right here, right? Two Infernos, Bomb Hive, multi-gear. That's a lot going on there. If your riders go around that part of the base, you're probably going to struggle. So what do we want to do? We want to make a funnel. So I drop my Duke here to take care of all the heroes. And then drop my Queen on this side to take out all these outside defenses so that my troops can go straight into the core, right? So let me go ahead and 4x speed this. Get the funneling out of the way. I use the rocket balloons to funnel there, trigger the Invis tower, sorry. And then I use my Queen here. Hit an air defense there. Could also went for the sweeper, I guess. But yeah, now with all that done, our troops look like they are going into the core, right? They're gonna hit this revenge tower and then go for that Inferno most likely, right? So this is exactly what you want to do on these stacked core bases, because if you don't make that funnel and you have to deal with all this at the end, it's gonna be tough. You can obviously overgrowth it, but there's still a lot for you to deal with at the end of the base, at the end of the attack, which is kind of risky, right? So now let's hop into a more spread out base. Alright, so I would consider this base to be more spread out, right? Like, there isn't really that much in the core. I believe I already showed you guys this base, but there really isn't that much in the core. So what do you want to do on a base like this? You want your riders to just circle around the base. That is what you want to do. They're stronger in number, and that way your Eternal Tome will get a lot of value. So here, I cut off a corner of the base like this. And why? Because I want my troops going from this rage tower to this section, to this section, to this section, to that section, right? I just want them circling around the base here, not splitting up. So I drop my Duke here into the monolith. I know it's risky, but we have the freezes to deal with it, right? So it's alright. And we get a little lucky and trigger the rage tower. I think we would have been perfectly fine if we didn't trigger the rage. But yeah, we hit the sweeper there as we did earlier. And then everything is just going to go around the outside of the base. Or most things will, right? As long as you get like, I don't know, 8 out of the 11 riders going together, you're pretty much chilling. And that's an easy one. So next part is the Inferno dragons, okay? So how do you want to use these Inferno... How do you want to use these Inferno dragons? So they are... The main reason they're in the army is to take out defending heroes, but they also do a great job funneling your minion prince, okay? So this is very essential because you have the Phoenix on the minion prince here, right? So yeah, okay. So I think I showed you guys this base earlier, but we want to start from this bottom side here, right? So if I were to deploy all my riders and my minion prince first, my minion prince is just gonna go around the entire base here, and we don't want that at all, right? So typically what I do is drop these Infernos first, just to be safe, just so that I know for a fact my minion prince is gonna follow with my army here. And yeah. So another example of where the Infernos shine, right, is on bases like this. So let's say I went for a different approach and just started with my Duke on a rage tower. Then, as I said earlier, you pretty much have to start near the town hall, otherwise you're risking a 1-star. So here the Inferno dragons are going to be key in taking out all these heroes here, and that's exactly what you want, right? Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the rocket balloons. I already mentioned them before, but there's a bunch of ways you can use them. The most common way you want to use them is to snipe out an air defense or a very isolated building. Like let's say all these buildings were gone, I could just snipe out the monolith there. So that's one way you can use them. The air defense is another. But my favorite way is triggering a rage tower. Just like this. So we use all 3 rocket balloons, trigger the rage tower. And this is going to be very key for your attacks, just so that you don't have to deal with all the rage, right? With the free spells, okay? So there's a few ways you can use them. The most ideal method is on multi-Inferno towers and rage tower bases, okay? So I'll hop into a replay now so that I can explain that for you guys. Okay, so first example of where to use the free spell. So it's a double rage base that we're dealing with now. And I don't go for the rage tower with my Duke. I instead go for a funnel to take care of the revenge tower. And where do you want to use these freezes? So the best way on a base when dealing with both rage towers is to freeze them before using the Eternal Tome, okay? So let me 4x speed this. I believe I messed this up, but the idea is still the same, right? So here I deploy my troops, and in a second here I should be freezing the Rage Tower, but I believe I used it a little bit too late. And why do you want to freeze the Rage Tower? It's so that you can Eternal Tome later, right? So I overgrowth the back end here, and it's easy peasy from there. Alright guys, so we're back on this super annoying base that's everywhere in the meta. So where do we want to free spell? Right here, right? All 3 Infernos, the Rage Tower, the Scatter Shot. So that basically, guys, if you can use all 3 free spells in a row like this, it's basically like a mini overgrowth, but your troops are targeting all of this stuff, right? So it's very clutch against these double rage bases in general. Okay, so next up, how do you want to use the overgrowth? And as I said earlier, guys, you typically want to overgrowth the rage towers after they pop up, right? So that is like 80% of the time how you're going to be using them in these attacks. So let me show you guys an example of that. Okay guys, so we're in this position right here, right? So there's actually maybe like two ways you could use the overgrowth here. One way is overgrowthing all of these defenses on the outside here, because I still have the Eternal Tome, which can probably power through all of this, but it's a little bit risky, right? So I see all these buildings on the outside. I know my riders are probably going to go around, and I don't think of this idea to overgrowth all of that. So what do I do instead? I wait for this rider to trigger the Rage Tower and just overgrowth it to be safe, right? Not having to deal with that rage effect is very, very clutch at times. Yes, you still have to deal with it later on, but it's like the very safe way to use the overgrowth. Okay, so last spell, which I'm gonna show in a replay, is the poison spell, right? Yeah, I could also throw in the skeleton spell, but like 99% of the time you want to use him on the monolith, so there really isn't that much to say. But yeah, let me show you guys what I mean here. Okay, so we just finished our Duke charge, and this is where you probably will use the poison the most in this army. After your Duke goes down, sometimes he triggers the clan castle and everything comes out. And you got the furnace, so you want to poison that furnace right away and then start your attack. You want to wait for that furnace to go down. In this replay, I forgot to do that, and I actually kind of pay the price, so I'll show you guys what happened here. So I drop my queen, and all these fire mites are gonna go to her and eat away at her health, right? She will take like 30% damage just from that, which, if you're not paying attention to your queen, which happens a lot, she can go down because of that, right? So you instantly want to poison that thing right away so that this doesn't happen to your queen. Alright guys, so last part of the video is going to be on hero abilities. This is going to be for the Minion Prince and the Warden Eternal Tome, because I already talked about the others. But yeah, so when do you want to use the Warden ability? Typically when most of your troops are under heavy fire. So in the core, or like a super scary part of the base that you know your riders will take a lot of damage, right? Or when like a key hero is about to die. Maybe your giant is about to die and you see him taking out a monolith. You could use it like that. But typically when most of your troops are under heavy fire. So typically don't want to use it too early in battle unless you're going into a very scary area at the start. And then the Minion Prince ability, I advise using it as early as you can, guys, because sometimes your Minion Prince splits up from your army and you just don't really have a good chance to use it. Or when he's just facing like a core part of the base, like a Rage Tower area, or air sweepers. So I'll start by showing you guys an example of the Eternal Tome. Okay, so we're back on this base. I think I've showed it like 3 times already, but you can learn a lot from this replay. So guys, we're starting our attack here. I know it looks really risky, but the majority of the defenses are stacked here. The heroes are all there. Pretty much everything is there, so we want to Eternal Tome literally right away. The safest approach. And then, as I said later, we have the freezes, we have the overgrowth if we need it for that Rage Tower there, right? So yeah, now let's hop into the Minion Prince. Alright guys, so for the Minion Prince, like I said, kind of intuitive. You use him wherever he can target the most things with that Dark Orb. However, in this replay here, as you guys will see, pretty sure I also showed this one before, but not the entire replay. So here, I aim for the sweepers, but I miss them. So I know that 2 of these guys facing me throughout the entire attack is just gonna be too much to deal with. So, what's the next best step to counter these sweepers? You can either start up there or use the Dark Orb. Starting up there is just too risky because your troops will split up. So, we start from the bottom. We wait for our Minion Prince to get deeper and then use the Dark Orb. A lot of nice value there. The sweepers will now blow us. Pause. A lot slower. And it's an easy one from there, right? But yeah, guys, that is gonna do it for today's video. I'm sorry, I probably could have went a little bit more in depth with different stuff, like showing all the spells, maybe some more bases, things like that. But hey, man, I hope that you learned something at least, and I hope you can put this into work for your future attacks. As I said, the link to the PowerPoint will be in the description along with the army, so feel free to give it a try. And yeah, feel free to like and sub if you did enjoy, and I hope to see you soon. Peace.